Hey friends, today I'm talking all about seedling health, how to prevent and treat common diseases and pests that can threaten your young plants. From damping off to pesky bugs, I'll share tips to keep your seedlings strong and thriving. Let's get started. Hey y'all, it's Amanda and this is my Texas Zone 8 garden. And before we dive in, be sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with a fellow gardening friend. Okay, we are deep into our 2025 seed starting series, and we've started probably over 30 varieties of seeds at this point in time. And if you're new to the channel, you can go back and check out all of them. They're all in a playlist that says, I think it says 2025 seed starting. You can go check them all out. Now, we are into the time where maintenance is a huge part of seedling care. And this is one of the areas I feel like is missing in YouTube world. Like we have a lot of seed starting and we have a lot of planting everything out in the garden, but we miss that center portion. So today what I want to do is I want to talk about how to prevent and treat seedling disease. Now, fungal diseases are probably the biggest threat to young seedlings, especially if they're indoors where air circulation is not the best. And so what I really want to do is want to talk through some common things that you might see. We'll put some pictures up of what that would look like. I'm going to talk to you about why that's occurring and how to fix it. Okay, so we're going to start off with some common diseases and some solutions for those. The first most common disease you're going to see for seedlings is damping off. And that is a fungal disease that causes seedlings to collapse at the base and die. So typically you're going to see the seedling looks beautiful one day and then the next it's just fallen over right at the base. And on the stem, right at the base where it hits the soil, it's going to look brown and mushy. That is damping off. So for damping off, let's talk about how to prevent damping off so that we don't even get there, hopefully. You want to use a sterile seed starting mix. Now, I say that you want to use this, and if you commonly have damping off occurring within your seedlings, I definitely suggest you do a sterile seed starting mix. I do not. I use a potting mix, but I don't deal with a lot of damping off. If I was, I would probably be switching up what type of soil I was using. You want to ensure that there's good airflow with a small fan on low throughout your space. So I've actually been struggling with some mold lately. So I set up some additional oscillating fans throughout my space. Airflow is key to prevent damping off. Next, you want to water sparingly, keep the soil moist, but not soggy. So I'm definitely a culprit of just overwatering and just allowing it to sit there for days and days. And that's one of the things I had to change this year since I'm growing so many more seedlings than I have in the past. And so I'm only adding about a quarter of the tray worth of water when I'm watering my seedling trays. So you want to make sure that you're not overwatering. If you water your seedlings and you come back 4 or 5 hours later and there's still a lot of standing water in the tray, go ahead and dump that water out, and that will also help prevent damping off. The other thing is you might want to consider a light dusting of cinnamon, which is a natural antifungal on the soil surface. So you can literally just take powdered cinnamon and just sprinkle it on the surface of the soil when you first sow them. That is a really good time to kind of fight some of that fungal issue that might occur. So treatment for damping off. Unfortunately, there is no treatment for damping off. Once damping off has occurred, there's no way to reverse it. At that time, you just want to remove the affected seedlings immediately to prevent the spread of that fungal issue. So definitely we need to really work on prevention for damping off so it doesn't occur. Like I said, if you see it starting to occur, all right, if you see that stem falling over and it's brown and mushy right at the base of the stem, then you really need to go ahead and take some prevention measures so that it doesn't affect your other seedlings. Okay, next on common diseases and solutions, mold and algae growth. I hear this quite frequently, people asking about it. This is often due to excess moisture and poor ventilation. Now, mold and algae growth are going to look kind of different. Mold, it can be a whitish, grayish, powdery look across it. Algae tends to be more green and looks like it's actually kind of growing. Mold can also get to scary mold with green and black mold. So we definitely want to work on prevention. So prevention, so that we don't even get into the mold and algae growth, we want to improve airflow with an oscillating fan and thinning out and avoid overly humid conditions. So I've been dealing with lately, we had a big rise in temperatures this winter where it got up to 90. And with those conditions, and I did not turn my AC on during that time, it got really warm in my house. It got humid and muggy, and I'm growing a ton of seedlings in this grow room this year, and I just didn't have enough air circulation. So I have dealt with a lot of mold issues on my plants. So I went ahead and I set up a lot of oscillating fans, which has been really great, and it has definitely stopped the spread and growth of that mold. So treatment, there's a number of ways you can treat for mold and algae. You can scrape off mold and algae with a spoon, and that's very simple to do. I actually use just like a little spade, and I'll just come in and scrape off the top layer of the soil and discard that. That's a very easy way to move very quickly away from the mold, which is nice. You want to allow the soil to dry slightly between watering. So you need to be really on top of that, right? Because a lot of seedlings can't handle being dry for very long, but you can go ahead and keep a very close eye on your seedlings and give them maybe a day tops of just having dry soil, and that can kill off the mold as well. And then after about a day, you want to go back to watering your seedlings like regular. And you can also, that sprinkle of cinnamon, once again, that we were talking about for damping off, that also helps really well with mold growth. Or you can use an activated charcoal on the soil surface, and that basically just sucks up any additional moisture so that it's not just sitting on the surface creating mold. Okay, next on my list of common diseases is leaf spot diseases. This is a fungal or bacterial. It can be fungal and bacteria. It is a brown or black spot on the leaves of your seedlings. Now, this is not one that I often deal with, and I think it's because typically my house is actually typically a little bit more drier, and I'm typically growing a lot of my seedlings during the colder months. I do feel like this is something you can run into if you have a higher level of humidity in your house, or if you're growing during hotter months. Maybe you're going ahead and starting all your seeds for the fall and you're growing them inside. You can definitely run into some of the leaf spot diseases. So prevention, we want to avoid wetting leaves when watering. So you definitely want to apply the water from below. For me, I always lift out my tray and pour in the water into the tray and then put my seedlings back in. So watering below is extremely helpful. You can also increase airflow, and that's because if any wetness gets on the leaves, the airflow will dry it up quickly instead of just sitting on the leaves and causing the disease to grow. You can also use a diluted hydrogen peroxide or neem oil spray if needed, and that's typically a 1-to-1 ratio, and you can apply that, and that's a very easy way to fight that leaf spot disease. Now, let's say your seedlings already have the leaf spot disease. So let's talk about treatment. First thing you want to do is remove affected leaves and disinfect tools to prevent any spreading. So you definitely don't want to go seedling to seedling using the same tool. Just cut wherever it is, remove those leaves, and then spray your tools down with an alcohol. Just a spray alcohol works really good. You also want to improve airflow with a fan and avoid overwatering like we just talked about. That will help let that mold dry up and go away. And then you want to treat, you can treat with the organic sprays that we talked about, like the hydrogen peroxide or the neem oil spray. But if things get rough, you can also switch to use copper fungicide in more extreme cases, especially if it's a set of seeds that you had very few seeds or it's an expensive seed. Go ahead and switch to the copper fungicide to really battle that leaf spot disease. Okay, I also want to talk about some common pests and how to eliminate them. And I've dealt with a few pests this year. Typically, pests are going to be something that you're bringing from the outside in. So indoor seed starting is safer from pests, but still they might find their way inside to your seedlings. So one of the major ones that I deal with is fungus gnats. Now they are tiny flying insects that lay eggs in wet soil. They are more annoying than harmful, but they will drive you bonkers because they're always flying around your head, and so super annoying. So a couple of ways to prevent fungus gnats from the beginning: allow the soil surface to dry slightly between watering, because like it said, they like to lay their eggs in the wet soil, and so if the soil is not wet, they're not going to lay their eggs. You can cover soil with a thin layer of sand or fine gravel to deter egg laying, because they don't like the harshness of the sand. Remember, sand is basically ground up silica, which is glass, and so it hurts their bodies to kind of go into that sand area. Also, you can use sticky traps to catch adults. I use a lot of sticky traps. That works best for me. They catch the adults, and then the adults don't have the opportunity to lay eggs, and it works really great for me. This year I've had fungus gnats, but no more than typical. I would say this last summer, when I was starting my seeds inside for fall planting, I had a massive outbreak of fungus gnats, and they were all over my house, and that was quite the battle to get rid of. Now, treatment for fungus gnats, you can drench the soil with a hydrogen peroxide and water mix, a 1:4 ratio, to kill the larva, or to kill the eggs and stuff that's in the soil. And so that's a really easy way. You can just mix it up in a spray bottle and spray it down, or you can add that solution to the bottom of the tray and allow it to soak it all up, which works really well as a treatment for them. Okay, next on my list for pests is aphids. And this year is the first time I've ever had to deal with aphids. And it wasn't until after I used Vigoro potting soil, which is just killing me. The Vigoro potting soil has been, just been tough. It wasn't until I used Vigoro potting soil that I had aphids introduced into my area. So aphids are tiny, soft-bodied bugs that suck sap from the plants. And if there is enough aphids, they can absolutely kill your seedling. Now, aphids can be multiple colors. They can be green, they can be orange, they can be yellow, they can be black, they can be white, they can be brown. They can be a lot of different colors. So don't think that they only are like green or something like that. Now, prevention for aphids, we want to inspect the plants regularly and keep new plants separate before adding them to your seedling area. So with my grow lights, I like to look from kind of a lower angle up underneath my seedlings, and you can kind of see if there's something crawling or something living on the other side of the leaves, because the seedling leaves are very thin, so the light just shines right through it. And I literally just go in and I just crush those bugs with my thumb. I'll just wipe underneath the bottom of the leaf. They're typically underneath a leaf. They're not going to be on top, so they're not going to be easy to see, especially if they're green. The ones I have right now are green, so it's super, super annoying. Inspection is the best way to prevent. Now, for treatment, you can wash the plants with a gentle stream of water, because aphids can be knocked off with water pretty easily. You can hit them with that. You can spray with neem oil or an insecticidal soap, which is easy. I like to use Captain Jack's neem oil spray. It's already pre-mixed, ready to go. You can also, you wouldn't necessarily do this inside, but if it was outside and you're having an aphids issue with your seedlings, you can introduce ladybugs or lacewings if growing in a greenhouse. And because the ladybugs and the lacewings love to eat the aphids, so they're a really great natural remedy. Okay, and last on my list of pests is spider mites, and they are tiny red or brown specks that create fine webs on the leaves. And spider mites can get so bad that they can definitely kill the plant. I deal with more spider mites outside. It's typically whenever we have dry times and we have low rainfall is when I see a lot of spider mites. So it's the same thing inside. If it's too dry inside, that's typically where you're going to see some spider mites. So for prevention, in order to fight that, you want to increase the humidity. Spider mites thrive in dry conditions. So you just might want to have like a couple of saucers of water, just plain water sitting out in a couple of places, just to increase the humidity within the air wherever your seedlings are. For treatment, you wipe the leaves with a damp cloth, or you can spray again with a neem oil or insecticidal soap, which works well. But spider mites can spread very quickly. So if you think you see them, go ahead and take those prevention steps and those treatment steps to make sure you get them under control. Okay, so we talked about different diseases and different pests, what those are, how to prevent them, and how to treat them if possible. But let's talk about some things that we can do for our seedlings overall so that they have just really great, strong growth. Because a strong seedling is going to be, it's going to be easier for that seedling to fight off any of these disease and pests. So let's talk about how we achieve that strong seedling. So there's a few different things that we want to do, 3 in specifically: lighting, airflow and temperature, fertilizer. So 3 different things we need to focus on. For lighting, seedlings need about 12 to 16 hours of bright light per day. Without enough light, they become leggy and weak, which also leaves them more susceptible to disease and pests. My lights are on 16 hours a day. You want to use LED or fluorescent grow lights placed 2 to 4 inches above seedlings and adjust as they grow. So you want the lights very close to the seedlings so that the seedlings don't have to reach and stretch and get leggy and then become weak at that point. And I use a bunch of LED lights that I get from either Walmart or on Amazon. I don't use the traditional grow lights, but the ones I use seem to work really well, and they've been working well for multiple years for me. If you're interested in those, I have an Amazon link down below in the video description if you want to check those lights out. Now, you want to rotate seedlings daily if you are using a sunny window to prevent leaning. So if you've got your stuff out a window or on a windowsill, you want to rotate the seeds daily. You can rotate them like, let's see, 160, 180, 90 degrees. You want to rotate them 90 degrees. And every day rotate another 90 degrees. And that keeps them from leaning too far over and creating a weak spot in their stem, which makes them more susceptible to something like damping off. Okay, next on our way to growing strong seedlings, it's airflow and temperature. So we want to keep temps around 65 to 75 degrees for optimal growth. And I work with all my seedlings inside, so that's very easy for me. Don't typically have an issue. My house typically stays between 68 and 72 degrees, which works great. If you're somebody who is working out like in a garage or a basement, you might need to add in a little bit of heater during the coldest parts of your winter in order to keep it from getting too cold. Too cold can cause some issues with seedlings. Same on the reverse side, especially for my area. I don't grow seedlings in a greenhouse in the middle of the summer. It would be 140 degrees there. Too hot will not be good for the seedling growth either. So you definitely need to make sure you're monitoring that temperature. You can use a small oscillating fan to prevent mold, strengthen stems, and reduce disease risks. One of the things about oscillating fans, and we've talked about airflow, is preventing the mold, but it also puts a little breeze on the seedlings. And that basically creates an environment where the seedlings are getting exercise and they're becoming stronger because they're in that breeze. So really keep that in mind too. It really helps make your seedlings stronger overall. Okay, and last on our way to growing strong seedlings is fertilizing. Once seedlings develop their first true leaves, you want to start feeding with a diluted liquid fertilizer, about half strength. I use Alaskan fish emulsion. Love it, smells terrible, but it does great on my seedlings. And when I say the first set of true leaves, the first set of leaves you see up are going to be the seed leaves, and those are the ones that nourish the roots. After those first set of seed leaves, the leaves after that, any sets of leaves after that are true leaves. So after you see first set of true leaves, you can start fertilizing at that point in time. And you want to fertilize every 1 to 2 weeks for steady growth. Sometimes I back off my fertilizer if my things are growing too quickly. Like you can see, all my petunias and geraniums are very happy. They're doing great. I haven't fertilized them in 2 weeks. I'm fertilizing them about once a month at this point because they're growing so well. Okay, and a few pro tips. So I've been putting a lot of pro tips in my videos, and it's just a way of me passing on some of the information that I've learned that's helped me be more successful. So pro tips for, big, healthy, growing seedlings: don't overcrowd the trays. And this has been something I've dealt with lately. I've been growing probably double the amount of seedlings I did last year, and I kind of crammed all my trays in. they do way better if you spread out the trays and give them space. So don't overcrowd the trays. Thin, weaker seedlings. So get rid of any seedlings that you have like 2 or 3 in one container. Like get rid of 2 of them and just leave one strong seedling. And that allows that stronger seedling to survive instead of fighting for space, which is really important. Also, spreading out your trays, allowing more room for airflow in between trays is very optimal in helping fight pests and disease. You can brush seedlings gently with your hand on a daily basis or run a fan to mimic outdoor conditions. This helps strengthen stems. So when we're talking about that, we're really just talking about, coming in with our hands. Now, these are not seedlings anymore. These are full-grown plants. But when you have some of the smaller seedlings, so I've got some right here, where you can just come through and just rub my hand just like that across them, and that helps build their strength. And then of course, if you have an oscillating fan in the space, then that will help build their strength as well. Okay, and then next we want to harden off. This is such an important detail with seedlings. So we want to gradually expose seedlings to outdoor conditions by hardening them off. It's a 7 to 10 day process before transplanting. So you definitely need to take your time on this process. Hardening off is the part that I dislike the most because I feel like it's tedious. You're bringing plants in and out, in and out, in and out. Not my favorite. So when you're starting on that 7 to 10 day process before you're planting outside, you want to start with 1 to 2 hours in the shade outside. Then increase time and light exposure daily. And you want to place them in a place where they're protected from the wind and the direct sun at first. So those first 2 to 3 days in the shade, kind of in a more protected area, and just a couple of hours each day. And then you can increase time and increase sun exposure as you're going. You also want to reduce watering slightly before transplanting in order to encourage root growth. If you're always providing the water for the seedlings, the roots are never going to have to reach. So you want to provide a little bit less watering, so spread out your days, maybe an additional day, and that forces the roots to grow deeper into the soil in order to look for water. Okay, so not the most exciting video today, but I feel like it's a video that's absolutely needed, especially right now when we are in the throes of maintenance with our seedlings. So maintenance and care with our seedlings. I really just wanted to make sure that I hit all of those diseases and pests, and then talk about how to make sure that we're growing strong, healthy seedlings. So I hope this helped y'all out. If you're dealing with any seedling issues, go ahead and drop a comment below letting us know what you're dealing with, and maybe one of us can help you out with that. As always, make sure you like and comment on the video. Every time you like and comment, it helps grow my video so much. And if you don't feel comfortable leaving a comment, just drop me an emoji below letting me know that you made it to the end of the video and that you say hi. Also, be sure to check me out on my social media outlets, including Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. I've also started a Patreon community, which I'm absolutely loving. We have about 34, 35 people in it right now. It's really great. There's a free option, and then there are a couple of paid tiers. The more you pay, the more access you get. It's a great opportunity. You can see my daily social media posts where I'm basically talking about what I'm doing and what I'm buying and that kind of stuff. I really am posting mostly on Patreon at this point, less on the other social media outlets. It's also an opportunity to chat with other gardeners. We get to share pictures. There's videos that are not available to everybody else. They're only available to patrons. Just stuff like that. It's really fun as a community to be able to do that. And it's all just gardeners. So that's really fun. All right, you all. As always, she's a mad gardener or a decorator or anything else that she wants to be. Thanks, y'all.